Hello everyone, glad to be back. Today is 17th of October, now it's 15 to 1, middle of the day by Moscow time. I'm Levan Gudadze and this is my first update for a day in which I will share all the main news that are making headlines in Russian media outlets and Russian language pages on different internet platforms. There are quite a few very significant developments and news that I'd like to share with you for this moment, and I will start with short summary of the situation on Ukrainian battlefield. According to reports from Russian media or Russian Defense Ministry, no significant changes on any of the sectors of the front line. It's mainly artillery duels between the sides, reckoning force operations and constant drone wars, I will say, in which Russian side does have a upper hand, probably because of better equipment when it comes to radio electronic warfare. But the Ukrainian side time to time still manages to use its drones quite effectively, and I'm quite sure Russian Defense Ministry is working on resolving this issue. Main hotspot at this point still are Avdiivka direction from Marinka up to Avdiivka. This is Donetsk sector of the front line, but we did not have any reports about any significant success of Russian forces during the previous 12 to 24 hours. I guess Russian side now is reinforcing new positions that they gained control of during the offensive operations in the previous days, and I guess now Russian side will bring in heavy artillery to make sure that Avdiivka is in operational encirclement and no military convoy will enter this city or flee this city without being noticed and attacked by Russian side. Also, of course, hotspot is Orekhov bridgehead in Zaporozhye sector of the front line, but according to report that I see, it's the Russian side that are conducting offensive operations in this direction, local scale offensive operations, and basically on daily basis increasing pressure on Ukrainian formations. And even this pro-Ukrainian map is forced basically to acknowledge that it's Russian forces that are conducting local scale offensives. This second wave of Ukrainian counteroffensive nowhere to be seen, and I'm quite sure there will be no Ukrainian counteroffensive or second wave of Ukrainian counteroffensive anytime soon or ever. And also, by the way, Russian forces are quite active when it comes to South Donetsk sector in between Ugledar and Vremovsky salient, but still this is local scale skirmishes and nothing in the scale that will influence overall situation on this sectors of the front line, Zaporozhye and South Donetsk. I remind you that exactly these sectors were main axis of Ukrainian, the so-called counteroffensive, which did fail miserably for Kiev regime. And when it comes to Kherson sector, at this point it's still artillery duels between the sides, recon operations, and constant struggle for control over these small islands in the Dnieper river and delta of this river. But probably many of you did watch or listen updates from Military Summary, and host of Military Summary channel, Dima, has quite interesting prediction that Ukrainian forces may conduct mass crossing of Dnieper river or conduct some maritime operation in upcoming days just to regain some initiative, at least on this sector of the front line, then same time to regain position in media field, because it's obvious that Kiev regime, Zelensky and his associates lost media attention big time after escalation in the Middle East. And well, it's a possibility. If you remember, somewhere around months ago, I was also talking about possibility that Ukrainian side will conduct mass crossing of the Dnieper river simultaneously with second wave of counteroffensive on Zaporozhye and South Donetsk sectors of the front line. If that second wave will take place, at this point we already know that there will be no second wave of Ukrainian counteroffensive, and therefore I have some doubts that Ukrainian side will manage to pull off mass crossing of Dnieper river. They may try, They may try some local scale operations, but well, I may be wrong, but I don't see how Ukrainian side gonna be able to conduct large scale operation in Kherson region and conduct mass crossing of Dnieper river with thousands and thousands of soldiers. I just don't see it coming, but I may be mistaken, by the way. I may be mistaken. Anything is possible. And when it comes to attempts from Kyiv regime to regain some media attention or attention of Western so-called elites, I'm afraid Kyiv regime may use for this some provocation. They may conduct some provocation, for example, in direction of Energodar city and Zaporozhye nuclear power plant, maybe in some other directions, because that's what Kyiv regime does on regular basis. If you remember, not so long ago, when head of U.S. State Department was visiting Kyiv, visiting Ukraine, Ukrainian armed forces did conduct false flag operation, and they shot missile at Ukrainian settlement. That was Konstantinovka, if I'm not mistaken. And even though initially Western so-called elites and Western media or propaganda outlets blame Russia for this, and it spoke about this topic for several days, investigation was conducted by independent sources, and it's become clear straight away that this attack was conducted by Ukrainian forces. And little later, when Zelensky was on one of his voyages in Europe, in Spain, if I'm not mistaken, Ukrainian side conducted yet another strike on civilians inside the Ukraine, or inside the territory that is controlled by Kyiv regime, and they tried to pull off very same card and began blaming Russia, that Russia is attacking civilians and so on, when almost initially reports came in that it was yet again Ukrainian side. So Kyiv regime does this kind of stuff. Kyiv regime killing its own citizens for attention of Western so-called elites, and I would not be surprised if they will conduct something similar on a very large scale. That's how they're gonna try to regain attention. Or at the same time, they may conduct some operation in direction of Zaporozhye nuclear power plant. They will definitely do some provocation. That's what I want to say, to regain attention. But when it comes to large-scale offensive operations in any of the sectors of the front line, including Kherson region, well, I have some doubts about it. But after all, by the way, Dima is a military expert. He does a great job to inform public about detailed changes on the front line, and probably he is correct and I'm mistaken. Let's see, time will tell. And this is it when it comes to short summary of the situation on the front line. By the way, if you don't have a link to Dima's channel, to military summary, you can see it under this video in description box, in recommendation list, where many other great channels are also presented, links to those channels. And yes, this is it for short summary of the situation on the battlefield. I will note, if I may, that this channel, dear friends, this project with several channels, including this one, on YouTube, Rumble and Telegram, exists solely thanks to support of members of our community, and I will be immensely grateful if you will also consider to support my work with small donations through PayPal, Buy Me a Coffee, or by subscribing to my Patreon page. You can see links under this video in description box or in the pinned comment. Now let's talk about some additional news, and RIA Novosti is reporting about meeting that Putin had with the leadership of Russian state, including leadership of defense ministry and security services. And during this meeting, Putin and other participants did spoke about situation in Ukraine. And Russian Defense Minister Shoigu did inform President that despite attempts from Kyiv regime to regain initiative on any of the sectors of the front line with this autumn, summer, or spring, summer, autumn, and soon probably winter offensives. In reality, Russian side is holding the positions and are in full control of situation, and at several directions, Russian side is even managing to conduct some local scale offensive operations and improve current positions, which is, by the way, factual true in the northern sectors of the front line and in the central sectors of the front line, including Avdiivka, by the way, which is formally southern flank of Donetsk direction, but I call it central sectors. Russian side definitely are in offensive, although yet again it's local scale offensive operations and nothing in the scale that will influence overall situation on the front lines in immediate future. And by the way, also very interesting news that Putin did had phone calls yesterday, and probably he will continue communicate with leaders of Middle Eastern states. So he did spoke with the president of Syria, Bashar Assad. He spoke with president of Iran, Ibrahim Raisi. He spoke with president of Egypt, As-Sisi, president of leader of Palestine, Abbas, and also he had plans to speak with Netanyahu. I guess he did that. And well, Russian side is trying to be somewhat active to help to resolve this Palestinian-Israeli conflict, but yet again, I'm afraid all the attempts from Moscow, Beijing, New Delhi, Pretoria, or Brazil will fail at this point, because I don't think government of Netanyahu, government of Israel will stop escalation until they will force Palestinians out of Gaza Strip, and until Gaza Strip itself will be fully occupied, and eventually, as time goes by, integrated into Israel. Very unfortunate reality on the ground there, but that's how I read big picture. And also, by the way, you may find this news quite interesting. Israeli media is reporting that Zelensky was basically not welcomed in Israel, and the Israeli government did let him know that it's not the time now for Zelensky to visit Israel. Well, this clown is desperate, by the way, for attention. Desperate. He even did try to use these tragical events that are taking place in Palestine and Israel for his own PR stunt, and he was planning to visit Israel, but well, Israeli diplomats, according to Israeli media, by the way, give him know that well, he should visit some other place. It's not time to go to Israel for him right now. And also, by the way, Spiegel, German media outlet, is reporting that Israel will begin its ground operation in Sector Gaza after Biden's visit will end in the Middle East. Right now, Biden is in Israel, and I did share on my Telegram video footage of his arrival. Today he will be in Israel, and then he will visit Jordan, where he will conduct some negotiations with the King of Jordan, and also leaders of some other regional states will also visit Jordan to participate with these talks with Biden, including President of Egypt, who plays and will probably play a significant role in entire this crisis, especially in terms of facilitating hundreds of thousands of refugees from Palestine. At some point, it's obvious that Egypt will be forced to not just open its borders, but to receive hundreds of thousands of refugees, more than million for sure, or 2 million, because in my understanding, Israel will not stop until they will force Israeli government, by the way, I'll specify. Netanyahu's government probably won't stop escalating until they will force all civilians, or vast majority of civilians in Gaza Strip, to flee for Egypt for safety. Let's continue. RIA Novosti. And by the way, let me show you on the map. This is Gaza Strip here, and this is Egypt here, by the way. So as you can see, Palestinians from Gaza Strip have nowhere to go at this point other than Egypt. And theoretically, Israel may open humanitarian corridors for Palestinians from Gaza Strip to enter West Bank, which is here. But I'm not quite sure that Netanyahu's government will do so. Probably they will force all Palestinians into Egypt from Gaza. And by the way, this is quite interesting news. Israeli media is reporting that Israel asked US for $10 billion as assistance, and I'm quite sure Israel will be granted 10 billion, maybe even more. They can ask any sum, really. US Congress and Senate will never say no to Israel, and of course Biden White House will also act as a strategic partner of Israel, no doubt about that. Although Biden's administration may try to combine aid for Israel with aid to Ukraine, as they did try already, but overall, of course, very different stories, very different approach. And if Western so-called elites are beginning to distance themselves from Ukrainian crisis, Israel is a very different story. It's exactly opposite is happening, and EU member states and EU bureaucracy in unison are declaring their full support for Israel. Same goes for North America. And by the way, TASS News Agency is reporting that head of Ministry of Finances of US, Janet Yellen, did make statement that US has enough strength, financially and economically speaking, to support not just Israel but also Ukraine. She had an interview with one of the media outlets. Maybe it was Sky News. I'm not quite sure about it. I did share some episode of that interview on my Telegram page, by the way. You can check it there. And she was basically asked if US can finance yet another war, and she says yes. US has no issues with it. And well, she's probably correct, because US administration don't really care about US citizens. So they have plenty of money. They can print as many dollars as they wish to, and they can finance Israel forever, until dollar is still world currency, world reserve currency. That's for sure. But I think many US citizens who watch that interview will probably will probably react very angrily on such statements when they know how much good can be done for US. US is crumbling infrastructure for social security of US citizens, for support of people, US citizens that are in need. And then yet Washington is sending these billions and billions all around the world, but not spending this money for its own citizens. It's hard to take it easy. I mean, to take this development easy, because what the hell, really. But anyway, let's continue. RIA Novosti is reporting that Hamas did make statement that they have about 250 POWs, which is quite a high number. And in this case, we are talking about POWs, so must be military personnel. And well, I find this number too high, but maybe maybe Israeli side is correct, or maybe they just during the statement made some mistake and they wanted to say that they have 250 hostages in Gaza Strip, which is more realistic. And sides are working now to release hostages, and probably there will be some achievement in this direction, because citizens of many countries are in Gaza Strip, holding Gaza Strip by Hamas militants, and possibly including Russians, by the way. And of course, all the governments are trying their best to free the citizens. And TASS news agency is also reporting that IDF, Israeli Defense Force, did make yet another statement towards or warning towards Hezbollah, and they said that if Hezbollah will enter this conflict and if Hezbollah will continue attacks on borderline regions of Israel with Lebanon, they will deal some catastrophic blow to Hezbollah. Well, to be honest, I don't think Israeli army IDF is in position to threaten Hezbollah, but because Hezbollah is the main military force in the region, by the way. Israeli army only stronger than Hezbollah because it has nukes. That's it, really. Otherwise, I don't think Israeli army even capable of dealing with Hezbollah. So this is empty threats. Although, as I understand, no Hezbollah, no any other third party is willing to enter this conflict with full force. And therefore, I don't see really reason why Israeli army is in threatening Hezbollah or anybody, really, when it's clear that no one is even stating or even preparing on the ground situation to enter this conflict. And TASS news agency, by the way, is reporting based on Al Jazeera media outlets information that already 11 journalists were killed in Palestine as a result of Israeli artillery and airstrikes. Unbelievable, by the way, but that's what it is, man. Thousands of civilians died, and journalists among them. Very unfortunate. Both sides, by the way, as I said quite a few times before, both sides, man, Hamas and the Israeli government or IDF forces, they are committing atrocities. There's no other way around it, to describe what's going on there. They are committing atrocities against civilians. RIA Novosti is reporting that Iran, by the way, Foreign Ministry of Iran did make yet another statement and said that it's quite possible that in next several hours some preventive measures can be taken against Israel by Iran. Yet again, empty threats, this time from Tehran. I don't think Iran is willing or planning to enter this conflict full scale, but well, because all the regional countries were forced to back off, really, now governments of these countries are kind of in a position when they have to justify themselves among to their own citizens. Then they are coming up with such statements, strong statements. But I will keep in mind, first of all, statement from Iran's official representative in UN, who said that Tehran has no plans to enter this conflict, unless Iran is under attack. So that's, in my understanding, official position of Iran at this point. Although many sides, by the way, not just Iran, but many other parties in this region will probably come up with strong statements, with some warnings and even threats, but eventually, I'm quite sure, no other party will get involved in this conflict between Israel and Gaza Strip, Palestinians. Well, if we take in account massing of US forces in the region, it's already 2 aircraft carrier strike groups that were deployed in Mediterranean, in close to Israeli shores, and well, this type of strike groups is too much for deterrence to give a warning for third parties. I mean, it's too much of a force for that, and therefore I think maybe Western so-called elites will use this conflict between Palestine and Israel to escalate, to destroy or to destabilize entire region, and maybe they will attack even Iran. Who knows, man? Who knows? Because in my understanding, 2 aircraft carriers definitely too much of a force for to send a message, isn't it? And by the way, I remind you that US also deployed additional several dozens of fighters to Middle East, and also ground personnel. US Marines also are deployed into Middle East. Some expeditionary corps of Marines. So there's too much force, really, too much of a force for sending messages, and too expensive, really. But anything is possible. Anything is possible. I will be not surprised at all if Washington and London will try to provoke conflict against Iran to shut down maritime movement in the where is this? That's it, by the way. To shut down shipping in Persian Gulf and cut off China from energy fields of Middle East. That's a possibility. And by the way, I did report about it during the live stream, if I'm not mistaken, on my Telegram, but I will mention in today's update also that Bloomberg did come up some estimations of economical cost of Iran-Israeli conflict, or any conflict with the participation of Iran, exactly because in that case shipping in the Persian Gulf will be disrupted severely or completely stopped. And according to Bloomberg, world GDP will lose about trillion dollars, and global economy will fail into a recession, with all oil prices skyrocketing, which is well, all logical, but I think 1 trillion is a too conservative estimate. In my understanding, world may end up in very deep trouble if Western so-called elites will provoke direct confrontation between Israel and Iran, or if Western or NATO member states together with Israel will attack Iran. It will devastate the entire world much more severely than some $1 trillion. And by the way, some other news now. TASS news agencies are reporting that Constitutional Court of Georgia read into case of impeachment of president of a republic. As we know, ruling party wants to impeach president, and the Constitutional Court come up with decision that yes, it will be fully legal and in frame of constitution if president of Georgia will be impeached. And that may happen, by the way. That may happen in coming days, because Georgia is a parliamentary republic, and all powers basically are in hands of prime minister. Although Georgia also has a president, and in case of Salome Zurabishvili, current president of Georgia, we have someone as a top representative of a country who acting according to a ruling party of Georgia, acting unlawfully, and she is not considering opinion of a ruling party during his visits, during his while she is making statements. And by the way, Salome Zurabishvili did made quite a strange, at least to to say it politely, quite strange statements, not just by supporting these extremist forces in Georgia that want to conduct regime change and forces that are under full control of Western so-called elites, but she also, by the way, condemned Moscow's decision when Moscow decided to no longer acquire or demand visas from citizens of Georgia, when Russia basically opened its borders for Georgian citizens. She also condemned Moscow and the government of Georgia when direct flights were resumed between the countries. So these steps that were very much in favor of ordinary citizens of Georgia, for whatever reason, did anger Zurabishvili. She was not happy about it, and she was coming up with very, very strange statements. And she proved by this that she don't really cares about Georgia, by the way, I mean, or Georgian citizens. She is an asset of Western secret services and never should become a president of Georgia in the first place. But now, well, Georgian government and Georgian parliament, majority in parliament, will definitely do right thing, in my understanding, if they will impeach this individual and remove from presidential office. Hopefully that will happen, man. That will be good for internal stability and security of Georgian citizens and Georgian society. And dear friends, several more news about some economical stuff. TASS news agency is reporting that gas reserves in Europe are at maximum level, on historical level, at 97.89%. So underground gas storages in Europe are almost 100% full. And by the way, guess this gas came from majority of that volume, of course, from Russia. Despite this difficult political relationships between the sides, Russia is still a major supplier of energy, oil and gas to Europe, pipeline gas, LNG or whatever it is, but Russia still major supplier of energy to Europe. And even though storages, gas storages, underground storages are full, unfortunately EU companies are too greedy, really. And even though on the spot prices on gas are not too high, it's only somewhere around $600 at this point for 1,000 cubic meters, if I'm not mistaken. Unfortunately, ordinary households are paying significantly more. Not because there is any shortage of gas, but because these energy companies are just too greedy. And also, RT's report, by the way, that Russia suspends all seafood imports from Japan. That's quite interesting and strong decision, I will say. And this time, this decision, I guess, has nothing to do with difficult relationships between Moscow and Tokyo, and everything has to do with security of Russian citizens. Let me read to you several sentences. Russian government on Monday introduced temporary ban on imports of seafood from Japan after Tokyo released treated radioactive water from the damaged Fukushima nuclear power plant into the sea. Well, previously China did made same decision, and I guess South Korea will also be forced by actions of Japan to ban seafood exports, or probably South Korea will introduce some additional restrictions. And when it comes to this decision of Tokyo to release this radioactive water, even if it was treated, by the way, somewhat, what you're gonna say, by the way? I mean, it's Japanese experts or Japanese government is saying that this water is safe, but I mean, come on, y'all. We are talking about water that was polluted with radioactive elements. That water never can be safe, just never. It's impossible. Time for decay of some radioactive elements are hundreds and in many cases thousands of years, and you cannot remove all the deposits of and all this chemical mixture or toxic mixture from the water, no matter how much you try. And well, it's very unfortunate what happened in Fukushima during that tragedy and the devastating tsunami. But well, world should raise its voice and tell Japan that there should be some other ways to deal with this contaminated water. They cannot just release it in the sea, man. That's crazy, though. And RT, by the way, is also reporting that South Korean electronics giant loses dominance in Russia. And we are talking about Samsung, of course. And let me read several sentences. In this particular case, we are talking about some TV sets. South Korean tech giant Samsung has been overtaken by Chinese firm Haier. By the way, I have no idea what this firm is, this Chinese company, Haier. I heard first time, maybe because I don't watch TV and I don't really care about TV sets, but it seems like this company is number one on the Russian market, at least in TV sales. So yes, this Samsung, South Korean company, was overtaken by Chinese firm Haier at the top of the Russia's market for TV sets. Business Daily Commerçant has reported sales of TV sets in Russia jumped by 35 to 40% overall between January and September, as Chinese vendors rapidly fill the void left by exiting firms, South Koreans or Western firms, the outlet said on Sunday, citing data from IT company F+. Well, who needs so many TVs, by the way? I mean, TV sales jump 35 to 40%. Wow. And why people still watching TV, man? I don't know. I don't know, man. I don't even know what programs. There is TV, by the way, on the wall, but I just very rarely this TV is working in our household. We are receiving all necessary information from internet. But anyway, quite interesting information. Once again, we have an indicator that Chinese companies are using this unique opportunity to establish themselves on Russian market, while some South Korean or Japanese or Western companies are forced to leave Russia and then find some other ways to come back. And well, they're doing quite well, these Chinese companies, definitely. And this is it, not just when it comes to some electronic products, but also car manufacturing and just every sphere, by the way. Chinese companies are making everything, just about everything, you know, and they are trying hard to establish themselves on Russian market and are doing this quite successfully. This is it for now, dear friends. Hopefully you will find this update interesting, and if so, please click that like button and leave some commentary about any topic you like. And if you can, please share links to my videos or my channel video friends on any of the platforms that you are active on. And if you think this project, these channels are interesting, useful and deserve to exist, please consider to support my work with small donations through PayPal, buy me a coffee, or by subscribing to my Patreon page. You can see links on this video in the description box or in the pinned comment. This is it for now. Have a great day and take care.